So in ArcGIS Pro, I'm going to navigate to my Lecture 9 folder, Data, Web Images, and there's an image in there called Alaska Birch, which I will just drag into my new map. This image has no coordinate system since it's just an image from the internet. If I zoom to that layer, it'll be way down at the equator and it looks like that. So that's just an image downloaded from the web of the locations of Alaska Birch, which are the triangles in the Arboretum near Dow's Lake. So I'm going to go back out now, and I'm going to go back to my view of the world here, and I want to go zoom into where that is. So I know it's right by Dow's Lake in Ottawa, so I'm going to zoom into that location. Here we go, back into Ottawa. Keep zooming in, and it's over here somewhere. Right, we are right in this area right here. So I'll just zoom in a little bit more to approximately that. Now, I've zoomed in, I'm going to click on the Imagery tab at the top. And then in the Imagery tab, I click on the Georeference button in the Alignment group. And that will open up the Georeference tab. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this button that says Fit to Display, and that will just move that Alaska Birch over into the current display, like so. So it's nearby or near where I'm looking for control points. I actually might want to have it a bit more over to the side. So I'll just go over here a bit and I'll say Fit to Display. So it moves over so I can see kind of both of these areas at the same time. Now that I can see both of those areas, I can start to get control points. For example, I can see that, oh, maybe I have to zoom in a bit more. There we go. I can start to see the trails that I also see in this image. For example, here, you can see there's the apex of a trail, and that apex is right over here. That would be a good control point. So to add control points, I click on the Add Control Points button. And my cursor becomes a crosshair. And the way we add a control point is always to first click on the source image. That's the source, or the image without a coordinate system. So I go over here, and I want to catch this little apex here, so I click once and release my mouse button. Then I drag over to where that should be. And that should be about there. And instantly, my Alaska Birch image is going to move into that position. Now I can't see anything else underneath it right now, so I have to click on my Appearance tab, and I'll go over to the Effects group, and I'll increase the layer transparency of my Alaska Birch, so now I can see things through there. I can see them both at the same time. So I can see my background map, which is the source. I should say is my layer that has the coordinate system already. And I can also see the Alaska Birch features as well, which is from the image that has no particular coordinate system. So now I can move around, so I can click on my map and I can explore around if I see somewhere else that's common between the two. So there's another place right here. If I look at where the road goes in from Prince of Wales, it goes in here and then it splits off, and I can see that same thing happening here underneath the image on the actual map that has the reference coordinate system. So that's another control point. So I'll click back on my Georeference tab, Add Control Points, and I'll click here first, always from the layer with the unknown coordinate system. Click and release my mouse button, drag, click and release. And notice how it starts to take shape. Here it's almost lining up now with all of the things after just 2 control points. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, like so, and look for some other areas where I might be able to find control points. Because when I zoom in, you see it's not matching up exactly. anywhere. It's close, but here, for example, I can see right there, perhaps this should be over there, so I'll zoom in. And I'll say this here should be right about there. Now I have another control point. It kind of moves everything every time. It's adjusting it. Right now it's doing an affine transformation, a 6-parameter transformation, because I have 3 control points. And you'll see up here, it will tell me always, so it keeps a running total up in this little info box. It says transformations, first order polynomial, affine. Control points, 3 of 3. Again, that's the minimum you need to do an affine transformation. And then it says total RMS errors. That means root mean squared error. And that's the error error of the transformation, the georeferencing. And that's in map units. So we're using here a Web Mercator projection, the default rectilinear projection of new maps in ArcGIS Pro. And so it'll always have RMS errors in meters, because meters is the linear measure in that coordinate system. So it says forward error and inverse error, forward inverse. So you can think of that as your overall error right here. All zeros, because there's no other control points. Once I put another control point in there, it can start to estimate the uncertainty of the transformation. But I have to find some appropriate locations. I think over here I can probably find one. I'll say that this right here should be right about there. And so now it gives me a forward 3.63, forward inverse of 3.96. So about a 3 and just a little more than between 3 and 4 meters error. So I need some more control points. So I'm going to again go back to my map tab, explore, and I'll look around. I can see it's not matching up very well in this area at all. So what I'll probably do is try to find one here. So I can see that this probably should be right there. So I'll go back to my Georeference tab, add control points. Let's say that should be approximately there. Now it starts to match up a bit over there. Go back to my map tab, my Explore tool, so I can move around. Well, that's quite messy in the middle here for sure. That's not lining up at all. And that's not lining up either. So you can see it's all out of whack up here. It's a little bit out of whack over here. So I need to find some other control points in different parts of the map here. So this, for example, I can see that this should correspond with that feature there. So this, in fact, should be over here. So I'll zoom in, and I'll say, again, Georeference tab, add control points. So I think this right here should be right there. So that moves it in a bit. But you can see the errors are getting quite large here, aren't they? So let's have a look at what's going on with the control points in terms of individual errors. So to see what individual errors are happening, I click on my control point table, and that opens up the control point table. And I'm just going to undock it here so I can show you what happens, and it's easier to have a look at with the map that's going on at the same time. So with the Alaska birch, what I'm interested in is over here at the residual errors here. So right now I can see that the 5th and 6th one that I added both have large residual errors. And so maybe I got those completely wrong. So what I'll do is I'll turn off the biggest one and see what happens to the other errors. Well, I think that was a good one to turn off, because suddenly you see all the other errors become much smaller versus turning it on. So if you look at especially up here at the forward inverse error, as I turn that on, it's that. If I turn it off, then I get errors under 8 meters now. The next largest one is 1/8 is the first one here, so I'll turn that off and see what happens. Now all the other errors are pretty small, except for that second one. But now we're down to a 5 meter some odd error. And if I turn off the next largest one, oops, here I'll see what happens. When I turn off the next largest one, of course, I'm back to just an affine transformation. So that's not that great. So I'll keep those other two off, and maybe I'll even delete the other ones that were big, delete selected. So I'm just deleting them from my control point table, all those ones. Then I'll go back in and I'll add some more precise ones now that I have things are generally located where they should be. Oops. So I made one there that was accidental. That's the last one. I'll just delete that. I meant to go to the Explore tool here. Well, it's not picking up the Explore tool. That happens sometimes, so I'll delete that last one. There we go. I'll go back to my georeference, add control point, and I'll try this one again here. So I'm a bit closer in this time. Oh, now it's taking that. Add control points again. So right there. That's not bad. And I'll look around some more. Go back to Map, Explore tool. Great, that's working again. So let's see what's really off down here. Well, that's definitely really off down here. So I think I need some control points there, like here to here, for example. So I'll just zoom in so I can get better precision on selecting those. And I'll go back to my georeference, add control points as such. And then I'll go back to my map, explore, and there's another one over here. This is kind of a weird one where that goes exactly. I'm not sure, but I think it should go right about there. So georeference, add control points, like so. Then I will go back to my Explore tool, zoom out, have a look down here. Well, certainly I can see that that should be over here, so I'll zoom in a bit more. And I'm trying to get the center of the line there, so I'll add control points right in the center here, and that should be over there. And I'll zoom back out, zoom in over here, that should be right there. So I have a whole bunch now, again, to work with. And I have quite a large residual error still. So I might look at some of these ones. There's one with 40. Turn that off, and I on 24, off 17. This one has 22. I'm down to 11. And the next biggest one is this one, down to 8. But how do things look? Not very good. I think I see something over here which we need to put back in. From here to there. Ooh, that really fixed that part good. So I think I have a good fit now in most places. I'm going to go to my Explore tool. Things are fitting well up here, not too bad. Still some problems in here though. Something's not quite right there. Maybe it's just the difference, and not over here too well. So I might just add one more over here. georeference, add control points, and then we'll go, that should be right over there, kind of in there. Kind of constrains it a bit better. There's a kink here. It's hard to find the exact location of the kink, but I think it should be right about there. That should help a bit. Let me see a apex here to there. It's pretty close. So let's, for the sake of argument, say I'm going to look over here. My total forward inverse here is between 10 and 11 meters. That's pretty high still. I'm going to delete or maybe turn on some of these just to see how that affects it. Okay, that one's really definitely, I'll put them all on. Well, and I see that big 47 one, so that one's definitely not good. So that's a big residual error, so I'm going to delete that point. The next biggest one is this one. It's responsible for a lot of error, 11 to 17. So I think I'll remove that one altogether as well. And then we have a 18 down here. And then there's a 15 there. There's a 15 up here. And maybe this 20. With those two off, I give a much smaller error. So I'll delete those two as well. And you notice delete it when you turn one off, it changes all the other ones, so you're not always going to know exactly which ones are the better ones and which ones are the worst ones to turn on and off. Sometimes you just have to try some. Taking that one off brings me a much smaller error, so I'll remove that one as well. Now I'm down to a 4 to 5 meter error. So let's say I'm happy with that. So I'll close my control point table, like so. And then I can export my control points just to save them if I need to go back to them later or I want to redo it. So I can save that to my Lecture 9 folder, for example. I'll just call them controls. As such, there they are, all saved. Now to rectify this into a new persistent layer, I click Save as New on the georeferencing toolbar. So I put that in. I'll call it the Alaska Birch 1.tiff. That'll be the coordinate system, etc. There's not too much I have to touch here. 8-bit signed. Output will be a TIFF. And I can click Export. And then I have now, when that comes back, it opens up and it puts Alaska Birch 1.tiff here. I can close my georeferencing toolbar. And it will say, there are unsaved edits. Do you want to proceed or whatever? You click yes to that. It closes georeferencing because now I have a georeferenced raster. So it looks like that in this case. And you can see the parts of the raster where there are no data are just in black here because remember all rasters have to be rectangular or square. So that's now a georeferenced and rectified layer. So that could be used with any other layer in ArcMap or to digitize features from, to create a vector feature layer, let's say of the trees or something else. And that's basically how you undertake georeferencing. Now generally in this particular circumstance I was just doing it for demonstration, but I should have been able to get a 1 to 2 meter error on this whole thing if I was more careful about how I chose the control points. It takes just practice to do, and generally what you want is control points in like an X pattern. So control points from corner to corner, corner to corner, and then some along the sides. That would be the ultimate or the best way to get control points so that they're equally dispersed across the whole image, both in the center and the sides.